Thank you all so much for coming along to Constructive Conversations today. So, Happiness Concierge is the kick-ass training company helping you ace work and life. We work with the largest organisations and the most influential experts in Australia: the Reserve Bank of Australia, AGL, Powercore, Ernst & Young, Wink Models, if that's your flavour, Moe, and Etsy.
Moe is more my flavour.
Excellent. So, what are constructive conversations? At Happiness Concierge, as well as injecting a nice bit of happiness into your life, we also like to make things super easy for you. So for us, a constructive conversation is pretty easy. It's basic. It is giving and receiving constructive feedback. Has anybody else seen this spot where Joey's required to do a speech for Chandler and Monica's wedding? It's all about giving and receiving, sharing and loving, giving and receiving. I think you all get the picture. So what I'd love is for you guys to take out your post-its that you've been given on your chairs and jot down why you think this is an important skill to have. So I'll just give you 2 minutes. This isn't a test. Maybe think about it from the perspective of what brought you along here today. Awesome. Wow, you guys, this is extremely comprehensive. I'm very impressed. Wow. And so I'm seeing a whole lot of having constructive conversations will make you a good team player. It will help with leadership. And something else that we find at Happiness Concierge is having the ability to have constructive conversations will help you with workplace retention. Can I have you read this for me?
49% of people would rather leave a job than have a conversation to address a workplace issue.
Show of hands, who finds that surprising?
It's blasphemous.
I do.
Yeah. So people would rather leave an organisation and go through the whole process to find another job than have a difficult conversation at work. I'm seeing lots of heads. I'm seeing lots of, yeah, absolutely. So why do we give feedback? At Happiness Concierge, we've found that there's 3 reasons why we give feedback. The first one is to reinforce a good behaviour. If someone is doing something positive and you'd like them to continue to do it, tell them. The second one is to improve a behaviour. If someone's doing something that isn't so positive and you would like them to improve or get better at that, tell them. And the third one is, if you have someone in your care, a member of your team, someone that you lead, and you know that they have a goal, they have somewhere they'd like to be, you can give them constructive feedback to help them reach that goal, help them get to that end point. Wouldn't we all love that? So I'm going to get you to grab out those post-it notes again. If you don't have any, I can get you some more. So this is a 2-part question. So on one post-it note, I'd love for you to write down the most unhelpful piece of feedback you've ever received. And on the second post-it note, if you can write down how it impacted you. So the most unhelpful piece of feedback you've ever received and how that impacted you. Does anybody else need some post-its? I'll give you guys 2 minutes to do this. Grab some more post-its up here. Everybody has a pen. There we go. Absolutely, John. There we go. Does anybody else need post-its? No. The most unhelpful piece of feedback you've received and how it impacted you. And we'll get these going up on this wall over here in 2 lines. This piece of feedback doesn't have to just be in your professional life. This can be at some stage in your personal life, just at any time where you feel someone has given you an unhelpful piece of feedback. What was that? Feedback that is not specific, yes.
Picture experience.
Oh, thank you very much. So, very unhelpful feedback. What we've found is in times of difficulties, only 56% of people felt their manager provided clear guidance and specific feedback. What I'm seeing on the wall, someone actually wrote, feedback that is not specific, bad. I agree. Let's do something a little bit more fun. Those post-its are coming in handy today. So what I would like for you guys to think about now after thinking about the most unhelpful feedback you've received, is the most helpful piece of feedback you've ever received, and how did that make you feel? So the most helpful piece of feedback you've ever received and how it made you feel. I'll give you guys 2 minutes and we'll go on the post-it rampage all over again. More post-its over this way, no problem at all. If you can't think of something helpful, that's okay. There have been times in the past when we've done this exercise and we've had a whole entire door of unhelpful feedback and 3 post-its in the helpful feedback section, which I think is very telling. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you, Kat. Ah, perfect. So when we think about the 3 reasons why we give constructive feedback, the first one being to reinforce a positive behavior, to have someone continue doing something they're doing well, to have someone improve a behavior, so they're doing something, you feel it could be better, so you let them know, and to help someone support a goal. What we'd love to see at Happiness Concierge is for there to be walls and walls and walls of helpful feedback received and no post-it notes on the unhelpful feedback. So we've developed a framework. It's going to blow your mind. It really is. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Sorry. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Let me share with you the Happiness Concierge framework for having constructive conversations. Whoa. It's that easy. 3 very simple things to keep in mind. So at Happiness Concierge, we use these 3 pointers to remind us, A, I've noticed, which is to share an observation, not an accusation. As a result, this is the thing to remind you to share how it's impacted you. So you start with an observation, you share how that has impacted you, and then what was your experience? And this is the point that reminds you to open it up as a conversation. It's a 2-way dialogue. It's never a 1-way dialogue, because that's when we have blame. So from these 3 steps, let's break this down a little bit. We've done all the work for you so that this comes easy for you when you leave today. The first thing we like to do is seek permission to have the conversation. So can we have a chat?
Sure.
Absolutely. Super. So we recommend doing this as soon after the moment as possible. I've noticed, which is the observation, not the accusation. So I've noticed, which is your observation. As a result, describe the impact of what has happened so the person understands where you're coming from. What were your thoughts? What was your experience? This opens it up to a discussion. It's the ask. It's what turns it into a dialogue. And can I make a suggestion? As John very rightfully pointed out earlier, let's make a recommendation so that this doesn't happen again. So we have I've noticed, which is an observation, not an accusation. Sorry, let's do that again. I was like, this is fun for me. I want it to be fun for you guys as well. So I've noticed, which is an observation, not an accusation. Excellent. As a result, which reminds you to describe the impact, absolutely. What were your thoughts? What was your experience? Which is your pointer to remind you to?
Open the conversation.
Yes, Tessa, open the conversation. It's a 2-way dialogue. And any recommendations? What's the small action we can have to take away from this moment? All right, are you guys ready?
Yes.
I was like, Lucy's ready. I would love for you guys to open up your workbooks onto page 4. And we're going to do a group activity. Now, I promise you, this is not a group activity like in university where there's one person that does all the work and the other 5 people don't do anything. It'll be way more fair than that. I would love to do some role plays with you guys.
Super.
Before we do that, I'd love for you guys to get into pairs so that you can, with the person next to you or someone else you've met in the room, work through these 2 examples. So the first example we have is your team member takes a FaceTime call in a meeting. Who feels this would sit under the would like to improve a certain behavior category? Yep, absolutely. The second example is you know a colleague has the goal of becoming a team leader. Does anybody know anyone in that position? Or do you have a colleague who you think has a goal that they're trying to achieve? Yeah, absolutely. However, you get the impression they aren't paying attention in important meetings. Who feels this sits under the support a goal category? Excellent. So in pairs, on page 4, you guys have the worksheets open. So you go from what was your observation? How did it impact you? How do you open it up to a discussion? And what would be your recommendation? So play it out like a conversation with the person sitting next to you. Name one time where your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, uncle, auntie, brother, sister has said to you, hey, can we have a chat? So the whole purpose of having that can we have a chat pointer in the front is just to remind you to seek permission, but also it's a good reminder that it's natural to feel defensive. Both giving and receiving constructive feedback, you actually biologically cannot help feel defensive when someone says, do you have 5 minutes? Can we have a chat? But it is important to seek that permission up front so that the person doesn't feel blindsided, like you're going, oh my God, what's happening here? They're talking to me about all of these things that I've done wrong, oh my God. So it's much better and you'll get much more of a positive result if you seek that permission in the beginning. But don't worry if the other person freaks out just a little bit because it's natural to feel defensive. And also don't worry if you feel defensive. There are things you can do to make that not feel so bad. The first thing is to ensure that you understand and you've got clarity in your head. And if you don't have clarity, guess what you can do?
Get to ask questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Don. You can ask questions, clarify what the other person is saying, ensure that that conversation is happening. It's two-way, remember? So you can clarify, seek validation, and also if you can see that what they're saying is what's taking place, it's okay to apologize. I, from experience, know that if I'm feeling defensive, it's usually because the behavior that the other person is describing to me is exactly what was taking place. And if it's not the most positive behavior in the world, I usually just lead with it. I'm sorry. You're right. Let's talk about this. Share your view. Agree to an action. That resolution, that'll make you feel so much better. It'll take that defensive and you'll hop straight into feeling so amazing. Question at the back. So the question was, if you haven't yourself worked out what the action point would be or what the resolution point would be, then is it okay to open up that dialogue and have that conversation? Thank you so much for that question, Kat. It's all down to personal preference. If you feel comfortable and in control, and you feel that you can have that conversation in a positive way, because we do want everybody to have that positive experience with constructive conversation, then jump in. You'll be surprised that having that conversation with the other person, they might have some recommendations on what they can do. So you guys might be able to solve that problem together. But if you don't feel in control and you don't feel as though it's going to be a positive interaction for yourself and the other person, maybe just hold off until you get to that point where you feel comfortable. Absolutely. Can I have a round of applause for Kat? That was probably one of the best questions I've ever had. And if you are like me, and I'm a reflective thinker, you might like to say, hey, thanks so much. Do you mind if I just sort of put this in my back pocket, take it away, and we have a chat about it tomorrow? So have some time to digest. That's completely okay. Who feels as though receiving constructive feedback might be a little bit easier after leaving today? Yeah. Couple of show of hands. Who feels as though if they're having constructive conversations, so if you're giving constructive feedback, people in your office or in your team or where you are in your personal life might also start to do the same back? Yeah, I'm getting a whole lot more nods. Like they say with new parents, sleep promotes sleep. I'm sure that sounds absolutely horrible when you have a screaming child that won't sleep and they're not sleeping at the right time, but sleep promotes sleep. So does constructive conversations. Constructive conversations will promote constructive conversations in your life. So, Fiona is going to grab some very, very special cards. These are Happiness Concierge, Your Ace or You Rock cards. And I would like for you guys to do one more thing, please, for me, if you would like to, before you leave. And that is write down the one thing that you've learnt today and that you'll be implementing as a result of this session. So, if you don't want to do this, that's completely up to you. You can still have a You Rock or Your Ace card. And back to Kat at the end of the session. Oh. But so this is just for you. This is just for you to take away. So you have that little reminder, I did constructive conversations. I'm a badass boss. I can do this. Round of applause for the wonderful role plays and for coming along on your lunch break.